这个 comments 呢，咱们就尽量的就是省掉了。今天呢有什么问题呢？咱们多问，请那个 Sporting 将军呢，请他多说。
你不坑我吗？
那没办法。
他多问等于他多说。
对对对，好，大家哪一位有问题 ？OK。
Hi there. First of all, thank you so much for coming. It's been really wonderful to listen to you speak. I just returned from a State Department program in China for high schoolers, and hearing you talk about the current circumstances and trying to separate the communist government from the people is so important. My question for you is, being in China and hearing a lot of the rhetoric coming out of the current administration and also the State Department, it feels like we're on trajectory for a second Cold War. I want to ask you your opinions on this and also where you foresee American foreign policy in East Asia and China specifically for the next 5-10 years.
Yeah, so I think it's really important that we understand how powerful globalization and the internet is to promoting authoritarianism and totalitarianism in democratic societies. In 2016, we saw the Russians create protests in the United States using the technology and business models of Silicon Valley.
我们现在要明白的就是全球化在推动这个极权主义和专制主义方面有多么有利。2016年我们看到这个情况就是，俄国人在美国竟然就组织了这个反对美国的这个 anti-American the protest.
No, they were anti-Trump.
Anti-Trump 就在美国。
And they also have anti the other side.
在俄国人在美国组织的抗议活动。
This is what they do. But the point is,
既有反川的也有反列。
They use those tools, the same tools that you use, that Amazon uses to convince you to buy shoes, or the Facebook that convince you to click on an ad, are now the tools of the Chinese Communist Party. And they employ them very, very well within China to control and influence the population. And this is part of the rollout of the social credit score. These tools are increasingly not just within China, but being deployed around the world from China through their technologies, through their companies.
我们现在能看到就是亚马逊和脸书用的同样的方式来让你买鞋、让你买东西的这样技术手段呢，也在用来推动这些专制政府。这在中国就是推动人们的这种行动。你要看到在中国，比如说这个所谓是这个 social credit 叫什么信用、社会信用的体系，这个就是其中的现象之一。而且同时在这里呢，中国还非常努力的将这种做法呢推动到全世界，推动了世界各个国家。
So there's a document, a report put out by Australian Strategic Policy Institute called Engineering Global Consent.
有一个报告是由澳大利亚政府一个研究所出来的，它的题目叫做就是怎么样去就是统一认识工程 engineering the consent not word consent
Engineering
consent
Global Consent.
统一全球统一意见工程。
杜撰全球共识。
全球共识工程，对，这共识用的太好了。
So in this report, if you think about the debate today, it's really about the deployment of Huawei networks. And I would argue, and I have argued, and it's in our national security strategy, that rather the problem is really about our open data model.
现在我一直在说的就是华为这个工程，这个整个一个统一认识工程，实际上就是说它是开启了明天的这个 open data
model。open data model。
就是开启开放数据模式。古城，你帮我翻一会儿，我累死了。
So Silicon Valley runs on an open data model. They need access to your data to understand your intentions, your personality, your interests, so that they can use that with their algorithms to sell you more things.
硅谷呢有一个这所谓是这个信息开放这种做法，他用这个做法来收集你所有的个人的信息、个人的爱好等等，用这个方式来那个向你推销产品。
So in this report, the researcher talks about a Chinese big data and AI company called Global Tone Communication Corporation.
在这个报告中呢，他们就提到中国就有Global
Tone
Communication
Corporation.
Global Tone Corporation， 谁知道那什么公司？不是威视，不是。
Doesn't matter. GTCom. GTCom.
一家公司就是在
GTCom.
在做这种信息就是大数据收集功能。
GTCom collects data from people to permit language translation in 65 languages.
这个 GTCom 这个工程就是让人们允许它可以让你把自动翻译成为65种语言。
To do its job, it collects 2 to 3 petabytes. Each petabyte is 1,000 terabytes of data per year.
做petabytes 其实是这个数字怎么翻呢？
多少兆？
千万兆亿。千万兆。
A lot. That's
这 T 是万兆。
They use that data with their machine learning to do the translation. The point of the report is that data doesn't stop there. It goes to the intelligence arm of the People's Liberation Army and to the propaganda arm of the Chinese Communist Party.
问题就在于这个他问的所有这个问题，这不仅仅是用来给你做翻译软件的做翻译的，所有的收集的个人信息直接进入解放军和直接进入中国中宣部。
And so the point is, it's not about Huawei, it's not about 5G, it's about data. And our global economy is dependent on data today. We are an information economy. That data is being used to influence you to do things. In the West, it's about products and about marketing and about consumption. In China, it's about controlling the population at the individual level to adhere to the type of society that the Chinese Communist Party is trying to build.
现在这个全球化这个经济是个数据经济，这个经济就这种全球化的经济呢，是关于这个整个收集你的所有这个数据之后，用这个数据来进行这个影响。在西方世界呢，这个影响是用来影响出售东西的，要卖给你什么样的产品。而在中国共产党之下，他用这个数据来控制人，来控制你怎么思想，怎么行动。
So the Chinese Communist Party realized that Facebook, Amazon, and Google became dominant when the smartphone and 4G networks came out.
中国共产党是他了解到，就是当脸书这个亚马逊他们出来的时候呢，这个
Facebook, Amazon, and Google.
还有谷歌，他们出来的时候呢，就是他就
When the smartphone and 4G networks came
That's the
out.
part I forgot.
Okay.
就当这个智能手机和这个4G 平台出现的时候呢，这个东西就出现了。
So in 5G, the smartphone goes away, and in 2017, this was already being deployed. You may have seen it when you were in China. Now you can order food on WeChat, put your phone away, walk in a restaurant, a camera will see your face, do facial recognition, they give you your food, and greet you by name.
而在5G 呢，这个智能手机就已经不是一个就可以说不存在了，不用了。就是他现在用的就是这种技术呢，就是当你走进一个旅馆的时候呢，走进一个饭店的时候，这个饭店它的那个自动人脸识别就能识别你的脸，就能够根据这个交钱，就是这是新的这个技术。
So using that technology today, in Beijing, the Chinese Communist Party demonstrated they could find a reporter, a BBC reporter, I think in 9 minutes, using their artificially intelligence-powered cameras.
用这种技术呢，就共产党就试过，就是说他要找一个 BBC report， 他找到 BBC 就英国广播公司的一个记者的话，9分钟就能找到。
So when you combine the power of the artificial intelligence-powered cameras that are connected to a 5G network and all of the e-commerce data that's run in order to provide you those goods and services, then you can create a really impressive understanding or dossier, if you want to use that word, a dossier about each individual, and then you can begin to pick winners and losers based on their behavior, and the ones that you want to promote you can make more successful, and the ones that you don't want to promote you can make have a harder time. And this is not just confined to the Great Firewall. As we saw with the NBA, it can be deployed abroad through economic, financial, and internet connections.
当你将就是这个AI 技术和5G 技术结合在一起的话，这人工智能技术和5G 技术在一起的话，再加上所有网络的所有这个经济数据的话呢，你就可以给每一个人创造一个档案。在这个档案里所有这些数据根据的话，你这个共产党可以说这个人你是可以用的，可以给他升级的，那个人是不会用的，等等，就会给每一个人创造一个个人档案。
So rather than us being open to China and helping them become more liberalized and free, in actuality, when we are so closely connected, when we are so closely connected with a regime like that, then they begin to change us. And they change us very, very slowly from within, a lot of times very imperceptibly, because that's the way that these systems work. And a lot of times you don't understand that you're being manipulated, because the system is made to make it appear as if you're making the decisions when your actions are actually being guided by the algorithms that are running on those platforms.
我刚刚漏了最后一句，是因为他提到 NBA， 我们在 NBA 这个美国篮球明星就看了这个情况。这样呢，如果中国现在他说它是一个开放社会的呢，在这个开放社会里呢，中国的技术这种做法进来的话，会逐渐的改变我们，它会改变我们呢，它会操控我们，它让我们每个人都觉得，实际上我们虽然是我们在做的决定，但是呢，你这个决定本身是被它所有这个大数据给操控的，就是这让中国进来这个。
So our founding fathers created a government that was separated powers, so that no one party, group, or power or individual could gain ultimate power. And failing that, they created the Second Amendment that would give the population the means to fight back if the government became ever oppressive. The problem with the system that we built since the rise of the internet and globalization is that those people that were protesting in New York thought that they were protesting on behalf of, in this case, a group on Facebook called Black Lives Matter, when in reality it was the Russians that created the protest. And so when you live in a world when you don't know that you're being oppressed, or you don't know your oppressor, then the Second Amendment and the idea of a gun really becomes irrelevant. And we begin to understand that our technological foundations of our modern world and the business models that are built on top of those have actually superseded the ability for free governments to actually maintain democratic principles in a society like ours.
当我们的国父创造我们这个国家的时候呢，他们是进行了分权制度。当这个分权制度都不够管用的时候，他们还甚至创造了那个甚至写下了第2修正案。这个第2修正案说，如果人民对政府不满意的时候，他们可以反抗人民。可是现在这个整个制度呢，是在这个互联网时代之前写下来的。我们现在是开始认识到，我们已经是我们创造的这个东西呢，已经就是说开始就是被互联网面临这个挑战。对他，比如说在纽约那些抗议者，他们以为他们是为这个黑命贵，这 Black Lives Matter 黑命贵这个活动来抗议的，但实际上他们是那个被俄国人来动员起来去抗议的。所以这个时候呢，就是说，当你就并不知道是谁在压迫你的时候呢，这就是非常成问题的。
So when I was in Taiwan, I went to a bunch of non-governmental organizations that were working to try to prevent or at least counter what the Chinese Communist Party was doing in Taiwan to influence the population using the same technologies.
我在台湾的时候呢，我就碰到了一些这个非政府组织的人，他们做的事情就是在启用同样的这样的技术手段呢，来对抗中国政府用这种技术手段来控制人的方式。
So I guess the point is that unless we change the way we treat data, unless data is owned by the people that create it, then we're going to continue to have these problems because our open system is vulnerable to influence from outside.
我要说的就是我们这个开放社会的这个除非我们是改变我们处理数据的方式，否则我们开放社会是有时候是会脆弱的，就面对外面这些挑战。
The problem today is that, particularly here in the United States and in other democracies, governments haven't, essentially woken up to the fact that competition is much less about bombs and bullets and missiles and military forces, and much more about how do we protect our democratic principles in a digital society.
现在对于美国政府和对于其他西方民主政府来说的问题就在于，他们并没有能够很好的觉醒，就是没有能够觉醒说在这个时候美国面临的最大的挑战，其实西方世界面临最大的挑战，并不一定是这个炸弹等等，而是说这种大数据带来的。
So if we are going to be connected to a nation, then that nation ought to, in this world today, adopt the same principles that we do as a nation. And we cannot be fully connected to a nation that is run by a regime that actually repudiates all of the principles that our society is founded on.
现在问题是，如果是我们跟一个国家互相开放连接起来的时候呢，我们会跟那些跟我们有同样的根据同样原则生活的国家来连接起来，而不是这样那个国家呢它是反对，它是不同意我们最基本的一些生活一些原则的。
I'll keep my questions short. We know the coronavirus is ravaging China. I would like your assessment on its impact on Chinese politics, economy, the prospect of U.S.-China trade war, and the bilateral relations in general.
说两句，就是那个古城刚刚的问题，就是说现在呢，这个武汉疫情会对中国的经济、政治、军事。包括美国的贸易有些什么影响？
So I actually believe that the Chinese Communist Party is facing 3 black swans.
我认为中国政府是面对的3只黑天鹅。
One is the Trump administration.
第一是川普政府。
2 is the Hong Kong protests.
第2是香港抗议。
And 3 is the coronavirus.
第3是新冠病毒。
And the way that the Communist Party responds is to these things is through secrecy and control.
而中国政府面对这些事情的，他的做法呢，就是秘密的，以前是试图去控制它。
We've seen them lock people in their houses to die.
我们看了他们将人们关在房子里，让他们自生自灭。
At the same time, their economy is faltering because they can't keep the factories going.
同时呢，他们经济正在下滑，因为这个工厂没有办法开工。
I don't think the outcome is different.
这个结果我不认为会有什么太大区别。
Than would have eventually came to pass with the Trump administration.
The outcome can 就说如果what do you mean by what?
So it was we were already moving apart.
哦，I see，所以
This will just make it be faster.
对，所以说这3个因素就是说川普政府已经启动了中国和美国之间那个分开，就是来回走的朝向不同方向的这个趋势，所以呢，这个结果并不是那么重要，但是呢，它会加速这个过程的进行。
But I believe Xi Jinping is so convinced that the model of socialism with Chinese characteristics is so far superior to democratic principles and free trade that they are ready to decouple, and that's what Vice President Pence already said.
我认为呢，习近平是对中国式的社会主义如此的信心，所以呢，他认为中国是已经是准备好了跟美国分手，所以这也是为这个副总统彭斯所说的。
This is why I'm so optimistic about the future of America and free Europe and free Asia, because I think those economies and societies are beginning to grow and prosper again.
这是为什么我对美国、对自由的欧洲和自由的亚洲有这么大的信心？因为那些经济正在上行。
Just one quick follow-up question. Do you really believe Xi Jinping believes in the superiority of the socialist characteristics, or is just for propaganda? Deep down in his mind, does he really believe that the Chinese socialism is superior than freedom and democracy, or is just for prolonging the one-party rule?
土城的问题是说，他们 General Spalding 是不是相信习近平真的相信他的那个理想，还是只是为了宣传？
你信不信他真信？
信不信？对，我是为那个网上的。
I mean, he can be let down.
信不信他真信？
Okay. So truly believe.
I mean, to be honest, there's no way I could know for sure. My impression is that Xi Jinping is as committed a communist as the Chinese Communist Party has ever had, and that's why he has been elevated to the position that he currently has. And I think that, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because Xi Jinping is committed to seeing the preservation of the Chinese Communist Party, whether it's for his own benefit or whether it's because he believes in the principles themselves.
我认为现在我没有办法去说，但是呢，我认为习近平是对中国共产党确实是忠心耿耿的。那么到现在呢，不管他是真的相信共产党会能延续，还是说他相信他用这个来保持自己的这个权利，但到最后的结果不会有什么差别。
Yeah, there is a rumor just came in this morning. It says Xi Jinping got the coronavirus. and Tai Chi. His whole family has got the coronavirus. And they are in separate. So my question to you is, what if this is the truth? In case this is true, what are the next move for Xi Jinping with his military power?
OK， 他的问题是说呢，现在网上有一个谣言，不叫谣言，有一个传说，说那个传说，说那个习近平已经赶上了那个武汉病毒，然后蔡奇全家都已经赶上了，然后呢，那个他的问题呢就问 General 说，那如果要是这样的话，是真的的话，那他怎么处理他的军事上的这个他的军委主席的权利？
So if that is the truth, then I believe that Xi Jinping will call President Trump, tell him to send an airplane to pick him up, to take him to Walter Reed Medical Facility, where he will immediately become a democracy-loving, you know.
我相信的话，如果这种事情真的发生的话，习近平会立马给川普打电话说，你赶紧来派飞机来将我们接到 Walter Reed 这个就在你马里海军医院，那个他马上会变成民主的热爱者。
Okay, my question is, does White House have any policy initiative to restrain or to give guideline for the Wall Street or the corporate America to reverse that pander-hugging policy and to continuing subsidizing the totalitarian regime of China. If there is any policy initiative or legislative initiative to give the guideline for the corporate America and the Wall Street in facing this kind of macro change of landscape of global politics. Thank you.
叶宁的问题是说呢，美国政府有没有一个指导性的意见给华尔街和美国的公司，他们应该怎么去跟中国去做生意，然后不会给政府提供那么多的帮助。
More powerful than Congress or the president is when people lose money.
比那个总统和国务更有。
And with what's happening with the coronavirus, I believe when you see the earnings reports that come out, and when you see how the Chinese economy has been affected, and you realize all this money that's put into these Chinese companies is going to face a loss for those investors, I think that's going to be more powerful than Congress or the president to stop this behavior.
比总统和国会更有权的是金钱。当那个经济报告出来的时候，人们会发现他们在中国这个投资，所以会丢失很多钱的时候呢，他们的行为方式就会有所改变。
那中国的 GDP 率可能还是在增长。
假的。
I learned a lot from your speech, and I'm from Taiwan, so thank you also for complimenting Taiwan's democracy. So I'm going to answer a question about Taiwan. Our Vice President-elect Lai Ching-te has just visited DC 2 weeks ago, and in Taiwan he claimed himself as a programmatic pro-Taiwan independent politician, and he might be an important role in the next election in 2024. So what's the implication to the U.S. government? And my second question is, since China is changing the status quo, and to what extent do you think the U.S. government will adjust its relationship with Taiwan to maintain the status quo, especially in the military or political area? Thank you.
他说呢，这个前两个星期前，台湾当选副总统赖清德到华府来访问，然后呢，这件事情呢是美国呢是不是在未来呢会考虑跟台湾的这个关系呢做一些调整？另外一个呢，中国呢现在改变了他们自己的那个说话的方式，他们现在改变了，所以这样的话呢，美国呢在对台的政策上是不是会有一些调整和改变？
So I had the honor to meet the Vice President when he came to the Hudson Institute, and I think for the United States, the policy is really about deterring conflict and preventing coercion in the Indo-Pacific, and I think that'll be the policy going forward. I don't see either Taiwan or the United States attempting to provoke the Chinese Communist Party going forward, and so I don't see a change in the situation that we currently have, which is that Taiwan continues to, have a democratic system that really provides the best opportunity for the people of Taiwan to survive and thrive. And so, this idea that that there's going to be war in the Taiwan Strait, I tend to discount.
就现在目前的政策主要是这个防止这个冲突和这个防止这种强迫的这些政策的发生，所以呢，他先说他很有幸的能够会见了赖清德副总统，当赖清德副总统去访问那个哈德逊研究所的时候，那所以现在这个他现在海峡那边的就美国对台的关键政策就是台湾方面也是一样的，就不要去挑动中国，就挑动中国这个事情。他在这个上我看不到美国 对台政策有什么最主要的影响？有什么会大的变化？台湾会继续生活在民主政治之下的认为台湾不会会改变，民主制度会改变，这是不对的。
Yeah, I think more importantly, the U.S. isn't going anywhere. We're going to be in the Indo-Pacific, protecting our allies and partners, and one of those allies and partners is Taiwan.
美国会继续保护它的这个合作伙伴以及它的那个同盟者，而在那个太平洋地区的同盟者之一就是台湾。
中美两个大国，尽管50年代中国也很穷，至少当时也认为它是大国，现在更不用说了。那么这两个大国的相互理解合作，非常对两个人民来讲是非常重要的，或者是一种非常就现在的关键，就是说，如果两个大国有些战略误判的话，那么就可能是一种悲剧事件。比如说，我们就是会议通知上就是说，像韩战和越战，美国在这个事情上是不是有明显战略的失误？因为韩战当时中国的就是说你不过3条线，我就不处理，这个事情是不是有失误？或越战。
In those 2 wars.
Misjudgments. I think we've had a lot of mistakes made, but yet I don't know how it's relevant to today.
的确有很多错误，但是他不知道这是跟今天的事有什么关系。
对现在的影响到底是什么？这个问题。过5年是吗？你的意思就是到现在又会武汉？对，你应该问他。他在琢磨，我怎么是干什么的？
Actually, basically the question is that you think, well, U.S. and China on both sides, both are big countries, and if you make a mistake and misjudgment, misjudge the other side, and that would be serious consequence.
No, so I think I go back to my contention that I think nuclear weapons really changes the way nuclear-powered nations confront each other, and they're far more careful in terms of how they let crisis and the confrontation escalate. So I think I'm less, I don't tend to believe that whether it be Vietnam or Korea, that the same type of situation will unfold between the U.S. and China.
说就是他认为核武器的确改变了整个人类战争进行的决策进程。在核武器之后，人们对待这个热战是非常谨慎的。他不认为呢，就是美国和中国就是在中国之间，他会对这种热战会有一个就特别就像1次2次大战一样，特别就是一触即发的那么一种状态吧。所以。
So, based on your military background, I'm interested to the U.S. global attacking ability. So my question is U.S. capable and planned to do so many assassination on Chinese leaders or PLA generals when CCP is committed to anti-human being and terrorism
OK， 他的问题呢是说，因为美国的军事能力很强，所以有没有可能在中国发生这个共产党的官员最后做这种 违反人权啊、人权侵犯的这时候，美军会不会去做那种做那种叫定点清除的那种工作？会不会做
So Soleimani was conducting military activities in a battlefield, in a region that is within conflict today. So he was actively fighting in a war in the Middle East. So if you understand what's going on there, he was an enemy combatant. I don't believe that the U.S. and China are going to go to war in that fashion. I think we will compete very strongly in economics and finance and trade and the internet, and the Chinese Communist Party will try to undermine the democracy of the United States. But I don't think it's going to attack American troops directly, because that would be a huge mistake.
也说就伊朗那个Soleimani，当时他是在一个战场上，在敌对的地方在那行动，所以他当时是属于敌方的战斗人员。那他认为中国和美国之间就不会出现，中国和美国之间会在金融上、在贸易上、在这个商务上会有非常非常多的冲突，而中国会继续来试图是挖美国民主制度的墙角，但是呢，中国和美国之间不会有像 Soleimani 那种情况的这个冲突。
It's like soccer, except the way that we've been playing the last 30 years. The Chinese team had 40 people. We only had 10. We had no shoes. We had really slow people. Now, 10 and 10, and straight up competition.
就跟那个打足球一样，就是过去可以说是40年，说中国那边有40人队，这边的队是我们这边队10个人，还没鞋，又很慢。而现在呢，往下以后呢，就是这边10个，那边10个，真正的一个对垒了。
Let's see who wins.
But actually, there's a rumor that the coronavirus is leaked from P4 laboratory, and it's human made. So if that's the truth, that means CCP is committed to the anti-human being terrorism behavior. So in that case, even though they are not attacking other countries, but they are attacking themselves. So it's American U.S. Army will do something.
他的意思是说，像这回的武汉疫情，虽然他这个中国政府呢没有去打外国人，但是他用这件事情，他实际上是在打自己的国人。那这种情况下，美军这也是反人类的，那美军会不会做？Okay,
so this is the way I look at that. This is American military. This is Chinese military, and the Chinese military on this side shoots himself in the foot. The American military will not attack them. They will feel sorry for them.
我的说法就是像这边是这边是中国军队，那边是美国军队。如果中国军队给自己脚上打了一枪的话呢，那个美国军队说不会打回他们，而说哎呀，这实在是很替你感到惋惜。
好，下一个。
Cliff Lee of Asian GOP. I'm a member of the AK Advisory Committee for 2016 Trump campaign. Thank you, General, for enlightening us on such an important issue which could shape the future of the world, actually. General, you mentioned the decoupling. So how different do you feel the decoupling will be conducted later for the second term Trump administration, or Bloomberg administration, or God forbid, Bernie Sanders administration? How different that will make how American voters should be perceive this? Thanks.
Good question. So you mentioned Sanders, you mentioned Bloomberg. Sanders is a socialist, spent time in the Soviet Union. Bloomberg doesn't believe Xi Jinping's a dictator. I think both of those are tremendously problematic for the American people. I don't know how the elections are going to turn out. It's my job to educate and advocate for what the Chinese Communist Party truly is. I'm hopeful that the American people will respond and elect the type of president that we need to defend the American people from the Chinese Communist Party.
桑德斯是个社会主义者，那个彭博是 彭博也是他们两个人都是这个
He believes Xi Jinping is not a dictator.
Yeah, that he said that 彭博是认为习近平不是个专制者，所以这两个人对于美国都会是问题。我不能够预见那个选举会怎么进行，但是呢，我的任务呢就是教育美国人民和告诉美国人这个中国到底是一个什么情况。我是希望美国人选出一个正确的人。Don't have to.
Yeah, Chinese Communist Party, not China.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, General. Very educational and enlightened. Lots of us have been following you on social media. You're not, even we never met, but we know you. We won't see too much of our appreciation for this. My question is, you mentioned that out of the 3 black swans, Trump administration is one of them, right? We did notice there's a lot of awakening going on, both on the American side and on the Chinese side, even for lots of us Chinese Americans. It helped us to clarify a lot of confusion going on. Before you saw a lot of disturbing things going on with the regime. If you say something, they will criticize. They said you don't love the nation, you don't love the country. You grew up in this field, a land, right? While you stand on American side, you criticize our own motherland. So lots of times we found ourselves at a loss. We don't know what to say. But right now, it's with the distinction between the party, and the country, and the people. It makes a lot of things very clear on this side. I won't say too much on this. One thing I want to say about 3 Swan Trump administration. We do see a lot of changes happening these 2 or 3 years, which is very fundamental changes from the American policy from this side. Do you think behind these changes, it's more like economic reasons, or it's more like a value system? We talk about the regimes, what they believe, what they hate, is the core value of this land, right?
Yeah.
So, but for this side, for the policy changes, which plays a bigger factor? Yeah. It's an economic reason, or it is like a value system? If economic reason, right, maybe next Bloomberg administration, they can make the economy better. So will that change, bring any changes? And if it's a values, system, we do see Bush administration, their attitude, their compromise after the 1989, right? It's not like a Republican thing. We see Nancy's firm stance on this. So how do you, it's a mixture of both factors, which is the factor more? And this is also my concern, which is what's going on in the next few years. With the political climate of this land actually change the policy between these 2 countries?
So that's a really good question, because I think there's this belief that you can separate the way the U.S. economy works from the way the kind of society. And if you look at how democratic countries work, they have democratic principles and they have free trade. It's about allowing people to have freedom in the economic sense. So it is, I will tell you, I guarantee you, the first thing that we came to the conclusion of when drafting the national security strategy is that America had gotten away from promoting its values, not just domestically but also internationally. And that we had to be, number one, the first thing, we had to focus on values. So it is a values, but I will say that economically, part of the way that our system works is free trade, meaning that we believe that people should be free to organize their economic activity however they see fit, and that competition should be balanced. It shouldn't be, give one advantage to somebody because they come from one political party or one demography. And so there must be free trade that's actually fair trade. And so that's not just domestically, that's also internationally. So when I say freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom from fear, and freedom from want, the freedom from want is really about promoting free trade, fair trade amongst nations that are democratic countries.
That's long quote. But
You know this
因为
already.
在那个网上还有好多的中大陆的朋友呢。
OK， 那个就说那个，他说这个事情就怎么样，就分开来看，就是我们在看这个经济与社会的时候，当我们说那个经济自由的时候呢，实际上我们经常就是还有指的很大的很重要的一点，就是说这个人们可以自由的进行贸易，自由的可以进行交易，但是这个当时我们在写这个国家安全这个白皮书的时候呢，我们也都很强调说，美国多年以来呢，已经是离开所谓这个价值，就重视价值已经离开了很远了。所以呢，其实价值观、价值是第一位的。那么价值这个中间就包括这个自由贸易。所谓自由贸易，就是人们可以自由的进行这种各种各样的经济活动。当我们说到这个自由就是免除匮乏的自由的时候，实际上也就指的是人们可以就是说免除匮乏就这种进行自由的经济活动。在我们这个经济体制中，我们不会说一个人因为他的某种身份就给他更多的这个经济上的好处，比如说不会因为你是哪个党，你是什么样的人种就给你更多的好处，这是我们的自由经济。
好，我们最后一个问题。
我问一个问题啊，就是那个去年8月2号中导条约到期，那个美国有没有后续的想法？中程导弹射程550公里到500公里以上，5500公里以下的中程导弹，美苏他们干了30年，他们不玩了，他们不玩这30年，中国猛玩，据说玩出来11000枚中导，现在到期了，你们美国怎么办？因为那时候你们美苏，我就要用中国话，就是缺心眼儿。30年，你们中国可以玩，美苏不能玩。现在人家中国玩了30年，玩出11000枚来了，打台湾没问题，你知道吧？你们怎么办？你们还有没有下边？而且还有就是大规模杀伤武器，氢弹、原子弹，现在又来了，生化武器来了，有可能来啊，对不对？这你们怎么办？还有呢，就是那个冷战以后，你们对热战有没有什么？
先回答第一个问题，太多了。
So we actually worked for quite a. Remember, I said back in summer 2014 we began to work on this. One of the most important things that we began to work on is pulling out of the INF Treaty. We recognized that America needed to provide similar weapons to counter what China was doing.
2014年12月的时候，其实美国就已经开始在做这个事情，就对付这个中导条约。其实中间很关键的一个项目，就是说我们怎么样去对付中国在中导条约上的一些。
And last August we finally pulled out.
所以呢，去年8月我们终于能够解脱这个条约了。
还有呢，就是那个超限战，超限战那几个人，包括他后台，我都是跟他们挺熟。我最近跟他们通电话，超限战，人家是，他们认为本拉登那就是超限战的一徒弟，本拉登的师傅就是中国这帮小子，把你们美国打得可以，完了把我们中国打了10年的这什么，因为美国他反恐去了，给中国弄了10年的什么战略机遇期，是吧？对，这个什么呢？这个乔梁什么的。他现在是空军一少将吧，反正包括他后台我都认识，他都跟我们那一波，就是我们那一年龄段的人吧。现在金融超限战，这个生化超限战，你们有没有？反正你们的班农据说兜里老揣着超限战。超限战就不择手段，就是落实共产党宣言的话，我们就用一切的手段，达到我们的目的，还得用一切暴力手段达到我们的，就是不择手段。所以共产党宣言里头说幽灵，现在去年还是前年，人家习近平重新学共产党宣言了。我们一个哥们讲了，这共产党宣言里幽灵给翻错了，应该翻成病毒，知道吧？来了，
老周，下回我们请您来开讲。
不是，我再问一个问题啊，就是说这个15年这个4月，王岐山见福山；17年9月，王岐山见班农。王岐山是中的2号人物，你们要注意。他的智力可比那习可高，我感觉。习的这个高，就是这红二代里头跟他比较熟的人就跟我说习啊，就是四句话，叫做不学无术，
4个字。
4句话就是4个词儿：不学无术，好大喜功，刚愎自用，穷兵黩武。所以说呢，他现在有可能误操作，或者叫误判。这个武汉这非典就是误判，完了就误操作。为了转移这个视线，叫战争是政治的继续。你要知道，你比如说小平为了干什么华国锋，打越战。为了毛泽东，为了树立自己的权威，
下回我请您来讲一次。咱们今天
不是我讲的，我是要问他，他是对方。
他问您那个 presidents face to this kind of complicated situation, what American can do? Just like the missile.
No. I said protect, rebuild, inspire. We're already doing it. It just takes time. Just have faith in America, in America's democracy, and work hard and understand that the Chinese Communist Party is about control and secrecy and not about cooperation and really the benefit of mankind.
在这里，我们现在已经正在做了，就是3个字，这是一个是保护美国，限制 restrict，right？rebuild，这重建美国，然后呢，鼓励激励那个世界 ，actually
Inspire democracy。
激励民主 ，it should be protect America, rebuild America, and inspire democracy。对。就是这3个字，所以那个，我们现在就是要了解中国是一个怎么样的国家，中国是一个要控制你的，做共产党是要控制你的，而不是跟你合作的。
我们再加一个问题。
I'll make it quick, okay? Let's talking about the post-CCP, okay? As an American Chinese who live in this country, which is a democracy and a Christianity fundamental. So how do you recommend us? How we equip ourselves and get ready for this time is coming? Thank you.
他的问题是说，在后共产党时代可能会来的那个时候，我们在美国的这些华人应该做一些什么样的准备去迎接共产党的倒台？
That's a great question. You know, China is a very big country, and if the Communist Party does go away, it's going to need to build up the institutions of civil society, and we'll need people to actually understand how democracies work. And so we should be ready as Americans, whether we're Chinese Americans or any Americans, to embrace the people of China, to help them to discover how they preserve and protect their own democracy.
现在是说中国是一个很大的国家，这个我们在中国共产党一旦倒台以后，中国需要重建它的公民社会。这个公民社会就是说，不光是美籍华人，而且美国人，我们都要准备好，去进行教育，进行这种重建工作。
好，那我最后还有，
我再多说一句话，就是说，如果最近就是原来的计划就是2020年对台动武，这个非典这事儿，或者叫这武汉这事儿，有可能他误操作、误判，怎么办？我就说，如果按照计划对台动武，你美国怎么办？
PLA fight to Taiwan.